The feeling that arises as you approach La Gomera, a small island on the western side of the Canarian archipelago, is a feeling of travelling in time. The volcanoes that shape this reduced surface, silenced millions of years ago, but not without first leaving an abrupt and tormented geography in the shape of ravines, valleys, rocks and cliffs. On the high heart of the island, the trade winds nourished a plant treasure, which prevails as a memory from the past. Garajunai, a unique laurisilva forest with gusts of legends, constitutes an important natural heritage. With the arrival of man, the solitary song of the birds merged with a new sound. A voice of its own, loud and musical, the whistle. Enigma and voice. We are still not sure if the first men arriving on the island, perhaps from the Atlas Mountains, brought with them the whistle, or if it was born here, arising out of necessity and distance. The Gomeran whistle is in the island and is the history of the island. It was here already when the first settlers, the Guanches, lived on it. The whistle transmitted dramatic events in the ancient history of the island, such as the killing by the natives of Hernán Peraza el Joven, Count of La Gomera, and the subsequent vengeance of his wife Beatriz de Bobadilla. It was also of use to alert the proximity of the boats in search of slaves. And yet the whistle, like the Gomerans of subsequent generations, survived all the catastrophes. Invasions, wars, emigration, depopulation. Today, just like centuries ago, the Gomeran whistle is used to transmit news, to announce celebrations and funerals, romarias or pilgrimages, weddings and baptisms. It is not a language created for the intimate. It is for the public, for what must be said out loud and can be heard by all. In La Gomera, the whistle and the landscape tell the same story. An ample network of radial ravines forced the establishment in its beds of the most important population nuclei. During the time that the economy of the land depended on agriculture and herding, the crops extended up to the summits, and the herders reached the highest cliffs. In those times, the Gomeran whistle was practised, or was at least known, by almost all the inhabitants of the island. Then, starting from the decade of the 40s in the 20th century, the massive emigration first, the incipient tourist development after, and lastly, the improvement of all type of communications, changed the way of life of the island, and the Gomeran whistle was consigned to an ancestral ability particular to a reduced group of people. The whistle is a substitute and compressed language, which reproduces the one talked by its users. Since Spanish became the language of the inhabitants of La Gomera, the whistle reproduces this language in all its aspects. It could be done in the same way with any other language. It is not a code, but rather it owns particular and well-defined linguistic characteristics. It is formed by 2 vowels and 4 consonants that are used through a complex reduction process to express all that can be said. The importance of the Gomeran whistle does not consist solely in its practical use, but also in its scientific interest. At present, there are no doubts regarding its linguistic value, and many other specialists around the world, such as Jacques Cousteau, Busnel, Canary Island, or Bernard Gauthieron, who have undertaken the task of analyzing its characteristics.
Marco, vamos a llamar a Melody. Llama por ella como si estuvieras desde a una distancia muy larga, ¿eh? Llámala.
Each town has to protect its signs of historic, artistic and cultural identity. For this reason, the local government of the Canary Islands has initiated one of the most innovative and efficient policies by creating a legislation that introduces the teaching of the whistle in the education system of La Gomera. With this, its knowledge among the youngest generations is guaranteed, and its future existence ensured for it to continue being an integral part of the life of the community.
Vamos a ver, Fátima, tú vas a llamar por Cristian. Dile, levántate y cierra la ventana. Bien, Cristian, contéstale. Bueno, ya voy para allá.
The candidature to UNESCO to declare the Gomeran whistle is the conclusion of the effort carried out by the inhabitants of La Gomera and the government of the Canary Islands. An effort based on the need to protect and safeguard one of the most singular live manifestations of the traditional culture of the Canarian archipelago. The language of the whistle is an ancestral legacy of pre-Hispanic origin, which represents the sign of identity of a people, and whose mere existence would justify by itself the need to preserve it. But it is also a bridge laid out between the past and the future. Our current responsibility is to make the path that the Gomerans have already walked across of equal use to the whole of humanity.